Good day. I am MSWS Masavana Satori Wabi-Sabi, and this is Eat, Fuck, Kill, the podcast Quick Hit. Today's Quick Hit is all about Austin Lee Edwards, the 28-year-old Virginia cop who drove 3,000 miles across the country to kill the family of a 15-year-old girl he had been catfishing online. He then kidnapped the 15-year-old girl, burning her house and family before fleeing the scene. Edwards was later killed in a gunfight with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office. Now I'd like to share with you some incredible information about these events that may be being covered up. To do that, I'm going to share with you a short excerpt from an article about Edwards and the killings, and I'm also going to show you a short video clip of a statement made by Officer Ryan Railsback of the Riverside Police Department. The Riverside Police Department, the jurisdiction where the young lady's family was killed. Take a look at these.
He developed a relationship with her, enough where we believe there might have been an exchange of texts, maybe phone calls, and he was able to get her personal information. He was able to get her address, obviously.
Quote, we believe there might have been an exchange of text, maybe phone calls, and he was able to get her address, obviously. How did Anthony Lee Edwards get this young lady's address from a phone number that he had had for a while? Because he had been grooming her online and catfishing her. How did he take that phone number and turn it into an address across the country? The answer to that question is horrifying, and I'm going to share it with you right now. Anthony Lee Edwards resigned from the Virginia State Police in October. He wasn't a cop anymore. While unemployed as a cop, he's grooming this young girl online and begins to have a phone number exchange with her. So as of mid-October, Anthony Lee Edwards is no longer a cop, and he has this exchange, this text and phone exchange with this young lady in California where he's catfishing her and lying to her about his identity. But now he needs to turn this phone number into an address. He wants to go meet this young lady he's been lying to online. How does he make that phone number an address? This is where the Washington County Sheriff's Office comes in. On November 16th, Anthony Lee Edwards was hired by the Washington County Sheriff's Office. That's 2 weeks ago. On November 16th, 2 weeks ago, Anthony Lee Edwards got a job with the Washington County Sheriff's Office. He got that job, I would argue, for the sole purpose of taking this young lady's phone number, punching it into the computer systems at the Washington County Sheriff's Office, and turning her phone number into an address, which he did. Within days of being employed there, he was only hired 2 weeks ago, exactly 2 weeks ago today on November 16th. 14 days ago, he got the job. The minute he got his hands on their information, he stuck her phone number into their computers, got an address for her, drove across the country, and the rest is history. That happened in a flash. We've all gotten jobs because we wanted a discount or because we were broke and we needed to steal shit from our employer. We have all gotten jobs. Most of us, anyway, have gotten jobs for reasons other than employment. That's what Anthony Lee Edwards did here. He got the job with the Washington County Sheriff's Office just long enough to stick this young lady's phone number into their resources, track her down and kill her family and kidnap her. Now, the Washington County Sheriff's Office is never going to tell you this. No one from law enforcement is ever going to tell you this. An entity from outside law enforcement needs to review and investigate every search Anthony Lee Edwards ever did with any police department he was ever employed with, and we need to pick through every single second of body camera footage that involves Anthony Lee Edwards. And I think what we'll find is that he's been grooming little children using cop resources for a long time. So on November 16th, Austin Lee Edwards gets a job with the Washington County Sheriff's Office after not having a job as a cop since October. Almost immediately after getting that job, he drives across the country and kills this girl. Now, in the video, you see that the cop from Riverside says, where the crime took place, says that somehow he found her and that there was an exchange of texts and, quote, maybe phone calls. You can tell from looking at that the cop, he looks like James Clapper testifying to Congress. He's full of shit. He knows how Edwards found her. And clearly he was desperate to find her because the minute he did, he drove across the country and murdered a whole family and kidnapped this little girl. The minute he got the job with the Washington County Sheriff's Office, after not having a job since October, he used the resources available to him as a Washington County Sheriff to turn this girl's phone number into an address through the resources he has as a police officer there. And they're going to cover it up. Somebody from outside the Washington County Sheriff's Office with subpoena power needs to go in there with no advance notice. They'll find that he used cop resources to find this girl so that he could commit this crime. And they're going to try to hide that fact. They're not going to come out and say, oh, yeah, he got the job with the sheriff's office. Within a day or two, he did a search on this girl and then was driving across the country to kill her family. They're not going to tell you that. But that's exactly what's happened here. Somebody who's interested in knowing the truth needs to get inside his phone, his computers, and all the searches he did during his time, and they'll find that he got that job just to use their resources so he could find this little girl as a cop. We also need to subpoena all the body camera footage from every encounter he ever had with either the Virginia State Police, the Washington County Sheriff's Office, or any other police department that he's ever worked for. And I think you'll see that there was a long pattern, because he resigned from the Virginia State Police, and they never tell you why. But a lot of times cops do shitty stuff and they're under investigation, and to avoid the investigation, or for that matter, the consequences of the investigation, they resign. And then they can just go get a job somewhere else. And the minute he got the job with the Washington County Sheriff's Office, he plugged that little girl's phone number into her computer, into their computer system, which would take that phone number, turn it into an address and all kinds of other personal information about the victims, the mother, the grandparents. He knew everything about all of them before he ever got there. And they don't have enough control over the resources they give these cops to see what they're doing. So make no mistake, it'll never come out that this was happening. Even if the right people ask questions about this, it'll be covered up. But this guy, this crazy fucking murdering dickhead, this cop got that job with the sheriff's office just so he could find that little girl and then drive across the country and murder her whole family. Washington County Sheriff's Office has some explaining to do, and so does the Virginia State Police. Why did he resign from the Virginia State Police? Produce all his fucking camera footage, body camera footage from every encounter he ever had with a citizen of the state of Virginia. I've been going on in Eat, Fuck, Kill, the podcast through all those episodes and in my personal life about how cops are totally out of control. I go on about it a lot. But one of the side effects of cops being allowed to get away with so much shit is that it emboldens idiots like this guy to think I'll be a cop and I can do whatever I want and I'll get away with it. And they get this idea that they're invincible and that and because of that, there's no limit to the horrors these jagoffs can produce. This respect my authority, and I'm
a cop, and you will respect my authority.
There's no limits to what they'll use that power for, like hunting little girls down to murder and burn their entire family and kidnap the little girls. He's a groomer, and this man had the power of freedom and chains over other human beings. We give this power to too many fucking idiots, and we don't watch them near close enough. And then we just wave blue flags and blindly support them like they're just inherently better than the rest of us. And it's absolute and utter horseshit. What if he didn't park in the driveway? What if the neighbor didn't notice and he just slipped up and did this like a smart person, like he was trying to get away with it? Because it seems clear that he wanted to get caught because he did it like an idiot. But then again, he just might be an idiot. I don't know the guy. But through his actions here, because this was a crime that with just a little cunning, he could have got away with. This is not an isolated incident. This is not a one-time thing. Thanks for watching this quick hit of Eat, Fuck, Kill, the podcast. I am Masavana Satori Wabi-Sabi. Please do like this video and subscribe to it. Comment down below. I want to know your thoughts. Do you think this guy got hit that job with the Washington County Sheriff's Office just so that he could take the phone number of that little girl, stick it into the computers that they have, and find out where she lived? Let us please rein in law enforcement and use this as the justification to rein these fucking assholes in, and not a little bit. And no band-aids on this sucking chest wound. Let us truly reform the monstrosity that is the entire justice system and allow this assholes act to be the impetus for that change. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. This is Masavana Satori Wabi-Sabi saying peace.
That suspect was in law enforcement and came to California after investigators say he tricked the teen.
Well, befriending her online and getting information on where she lived. We have live to you coverage on this bizarre murder story this afternoon, including the dangers of meeting strangers online.
We begin with KCAL 9's Michelle Geely with details on the murder investigation, including how the suspect was killed in a shootout with deputies. Michelle?
Indeed, the suspect was killed after this shootout this past Friday with San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies. This all happening in the desert west of Needles. Now, officials say that was hours after this Virginia deputy sheriff killed a couple and their adult daughter right here in their house in Riverside. Witnesses say the suspect then left with a teenage girl who lives here.
He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing, exactly. But thank goodness he made a lot of mistakes. Parking in the driveway, having somebody see him.
A neighbor of the three family members murdered in Riverside took this photo out of her window of the suspect's red car in her driveway, thinking it might have been stolen and dumped here. It was 10:30 in the morning last Friday, minutes before the Winnick's home started burning. Officials say the bodies of Mark, Sherry, and Brooke Winnick were discovered inside. The neighbor, who asked not to be named, told me that she saw 28-year-old Austin Lee Edwards dressed in a black trench coat and face mask, walking with the 15-year-old who lives in the house. They were getting into the red car. She was trying to mouth the words to me, but nothing came out, the neighbor said. I looked down and saw she was barefoot. She was crying a little bit. She didn't try to make a run for it. The neighbor called police. Authorities say the teenager and the suspect, who is a Virginia law enforcement officer, had an online relationship. Edwards, Riverside police believe, pretended to be younger than 28 years old.
He developed a relationship with her, enough where we believe there might have been an exchange of texts, maybe phone calls, and he was able to get her personal information. He was able to get her address, obviously.
And drove across the country, officials say, to find the victim's young relative. The neighbor says she saw the suspect walk back to the car with a plastic bag and black backpack. I opened the garage door, she recounted. He was stunned. I said, "Hey, you can't park here." He actually apologized, said sorry. Before the pair drove off, the neighbor got the suspect's license plate and called police again.
She is a true hero because she was watching and she was diligent and followed through to what she had to do for this young girl, seeing her in distress.
There is a fund to raise money for the survivors, and this statement, a new statement from the family. The Winnick family would like to thank everyone for their love, support, prayers, and patience during this horrific time in our lives. Mark, Sherry, and Brooke were loving people who didn't deserve this tragedy. Now, this afternoon, Riverside police are saying that the teenage girl is safe and that she has been interviewed by detectives, to the point where these detectives believe that the suspect was the only one involved in the murders and the fire here. That's the latest live in Riverside. I'm Michelle Geely. Back to you.